All right, we're back, and hopefully we'll do the right way this time. It's COMP228. It's week 12, lesson 12, part 2, Java programming, Centennial. And it's December 1st today, right? So no more Movember. We still got a Movember message there, but I'm going to take it off after. Let's do the next piece. So we've got the one piece that happened was with this read all. Let's do the next pieces of our controller. So now if you notice in Eclipse, you can actually hide this whole method. I'm going to do that just to give it some more space. I'm going to click this little minus button to collapse everything. It's going to look like this now. I'm going to read my new one read from one row in here. Again, let's start going. So again, for reading from one row, we're going to go public static, right? We're going to return this time something new, which is a movie, which is our Java bean, right? For the first time, right? And we're going to use our get row. That's what it's going to be called. We're going to actually listen for an ID. We're going to go to that particular ID, and we're also going to throw a SQL exception, right? Because that's the kind of exception we're going to make. Okay, cool. Now we got a problem. Movie doesn't appear. And if I kind of go through it, it says import movie from com.companyname.jdbc.beans, right? Because that's our new package, right? So I'm going to do that. I'm going to click that. Notice how it imports this new package, the one we made, just to hold our controller, our model, which is the beans. Remember, our bean is our model, right, for the class, for the database, right? Notice also how it says, well, there's no return statement. That's okay. We're going to add a return statement in a second. So we're going to have some similar things. We're going to have a string, right, which is a new query. So we're going to have a new SQL query. Here's a new SQL query string, right? And we're going to kind of say, we're going to use the select statement. So select, right, everything, right, from movie list. That's our the database that we made, right, where ID is equal to question mark. And this is now what kind of statement do we need for this one? We used the regular statement. Now we're going to use a prepared statement. We use the prepared statements when we have interpolation. If we don't do that, then we're not going to have a kind of things that would work well. Okay, cool. So the next one was we want to kind of declare a result set in this particular case. Remember I showed this last time to you outside of our enhanced try because of the way that we're going to have our prepared statement work, right? So we're going to say result set is outside of our try, right? Is result set is equal to null. We're going to kind of instantiate it as a kind of a null object right now. And the reason for that is because what we want to do is we want to kind of set it up. We know we're going to make this, the next piece is going to be our enhanced try. So we're going to say try. We're going to use these parentheses, right? We're also going to have a catch for the try, which we're going to have a type of exception. What kind of exception is it going to be? A SQL exception. So we might as well put that in there, which we're going to call exception, right? And we're also, because we've made this result set here, remember that it opens up the result set. We need to close it manually because it's not going to be in our enhanced try, right? So we're going to create a finally statement as well. This is just prep, right? Our finally statement is going to be here, where we're going to put in if my result set is not equal to null, that means it's been opened and filled up with something. We want to kind of do a result set dot close. That's our manual closing off of the connection, right? And we need to only do this with stuff that's outside of our enhanced try, right? Okay, because that's, even though it's a closable, we haven't put it inside of our enhanced try block, so therefore we would have to close it manually. We have to manage it manually. So we open it here, we kind of declare it here, and down here we're closing it. Okay, so inside of our try, then, we're going to put our new connection string again. So we're going to say connection, which we're going to call connection, lowercase, right? If I can spell it properly, is equal to what? Well, it's going to be db config dot get connection. That's where you're saying we're using multiple connections every time. Every time we have to do a statement, we're opening a new connection. But then we're also closing it off every time, right? So that's okay. it's just a little bit more overhead for us. Okay, then the next one is, instead of a statement now, we're going to do prepared statement, right? So we're going to say prepared statement. And when we do a prepared statement, we're going to call it a statement, which is equal to our connection dot prepared statement. And we're going to pass in our SQL query string that's going to be right here. So those are the two things in our enhanced track. Notice how as soon as I did that and I put all the rest in there, it imported our SQL prepared statement as inside of our imports. All that stuff was done. Still have an error because we haven't returned our Java bean yet, right? We're waiting to return a Java bean. That's what we're doing here. Okay, let's come to it. So that's the first piece, and now we want to check to see if we've received the data, right? But first of all, let's start off with the next piece, right? Which is we're going to say our statement dot, right, set integer. We're going to set the integer to, remember, because this is, when we say set int, what we're actually doing is we're saying, take a look at this integer that we're looking for right here. Sometimes it's set string, by the way, where ID is the integer. ID is an integer, so we're sending the integer. The interpolation that we're doing here, we're going to put the index as 1. This is the first place and the only one that we're interpolating. So we're just going to say this is our first row. That's the first position, you know, our placeholder, first placeholder, if you will. Right, and then what we're interpolating is going to go in there, right? So it's going to say ID, right? So we're going to get that from our method constructor. Our method constructor is going to get an ID. We're going to use that ID to put it into our statement. Okay, and then of course after we've done that, we're going to say result set, right? Dot or equals to, sorry, statement dot execute query, which is going to execute the query that we're going to get from our statement. So this is the new query. That's why we're using a prepared query now, because we can take the query string, interpolate data inside of it, and then use that prepared statement in our result set when we do our execute query. Okay, once we've done that, we got to check to see if we've received any data. Because maybe we didn't receive data, maybe something went wrong, right? So, I mean, this is a further check. So we're going to say something like this. So we're going to say check to see if we received any data, right? Now, how do we do that? We're going to say if result set dot next, right? If it exists, then we're going to do this. If we return something in a result set, then do the following. Otherwise, we don't want to do that. We're going to say movie, right? And now this is different ways of doing this. We can call this it's going to be a bean, right? I want to use the bean keyword here. But what kind of bean are we getting? We're getting almost like our get bean or our read bean, you know, instead of just using a bean over and over again, right? So that way we can do that. But for now, we're going to just call it bean. Movie bean is equal to a new movie, right? Now you might call this model or movie lowercase movie, right? Like you might see it written like this. Instead of bean, we'll say movie, right? I use bean in there just so you understand. That's what we're getting, a Java bean, right? The Java bean is just an object that's going to contain all of our stuff for each of our rows, right? Well, let's just call it lowercase movie, right? And then we'll say movie, then dot set ID. Look at how we have it here. Remember, these are all our getters and setters from our movie bean, right? Our set ID, which we're going to make it ID that we're going to get from our constructor, right? Then we're going to continue to go. We're going to go movie dot set name. This is the beautiful thing about this, right? Set name is, we're going to use the result set dot get name, get string, right? Sorry, get string of our column, which is the name, which we've seen before, right? And we're going to keep typing. So movie. So we're going to do it in one. We're going to get from the result set and we're going to load it into our bean. Okay, that's what we're doing. We're loading it into there. So we're going to say movie dot set description, right, which is our setter, right? And we're going to go result set dot get string description. It's almost like middleware more than anything else. Movie dot set release date, right, which we're going to listen for a result set dot get date, which is going to be called release date, release underscore date. Right? Again, this should all be familiar to you as we plow through it. Movie dot set rating. Oh, that's a problem. I don't like that. Man, I thought we fixed that. Darn it. So just modify my. I don't want it. I don't want it. I want to fix it now, right? I hate it. I don't want to do it. I want to do it now. Set rating. Set rating. Fix it now. Right? I don't care. Fixing it. Right? Now I'll go back. No. Movie dot set rating, which is a double of type double. So we're going to say result set dot get double, which is of type rating. So that's the column we're looking at. And then movie dot set genre. Oh man, arg, arg. Hate it. Can't be. How did I mess that up? That is just like twice. Did I do it a lot of times? Like, when did I do that? I must have like missed two. Those are the two I missed. Look at that. That just sucks. I hate it. All right. So movie dot set genre. Let's do that again. Movie dot set genre, and it's going to be of type string, of course, right? So we're going to say result string. No, genre is a string, right? Result set dot get string, and we're going to say genre. Like this of action, adventure, sci-fi. Double is our rating. Okay, cool. So we've got all that. That gets loaded into the movie bean, right? And what we're going to do here is, if everything went well, we're going to do a return statement in here in our if statement. We're going to say return movie, because that's really our movie bean that we're returning, our Java bean, right? Else, somehow something bad happens, we're going to make a further check, which will probably never get to this else statement, but we'll put it in there anyway. I want to return null, right? It's not going to return anything if something goes wrong. In our exception, our SQL exception, right? If we have a SQL error, like somehow my SQL statement didn't go right, and I want to close things off properly, what I want to put in here is, again, it's a SQL exception, so we're going to use db config, right, dot display exception, right? We're going to pass in the exception. We're going to display. And on top of that, we're also going to return, null. Okay? Because we don't want to, if we have a problem, we don't want to return, we're still going to listen for us to return something. Whew, right? All that for our read one row, right? Yeah, but now we're reading a row, we're reading a specific row. We're not just reading all rows, we're reading one row that we're kind of calling, right? Well, now that we've done that, we have to update our read of one row. Let's go back to our program for a second. So let's not display all rows. I'm just going to kind of comment it out so we can see that we did that. We're going to try all the different operations here. So this is our read operation, right? And our read operation, we're going to do something like this. System.out.println. And we're going to kind of put together a little bit of formatting for us. Why not? We'll say, hey, print all these things out here. Just give us a little bit of space. Like that. And we'll say sysout. And inside of our sysout statement, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to say read a row, have a title, read a row of data. Right? And we'll copy this thing here as well. It's almost like our header for what we're doing, right? So you guys can see it. And then this is where we're gonna use our input helper for the first time, right? We're gonna say int. This is where we're gonna read a row, like our ID is gonna be, we're gonna read our ID. We might have another ID, we're gonna input ID, you know, or an update ID, you know. So we're going to have different IDs, and I'm going to call them different things because we're using one class to do this. Normally you'd use different methods for this, right? But for now we're just doing it in one class. We're going to call this our read ID, right? Is equal to input helper dot what? Get ID, right? Get integer input. And we're going to put inside of our prompt, we're going to say something like this. Select the row to read, right? A bit of a space in there, right? And that's how we use our input helper, right? Our input helper, instead of us, you know, going in and doing all those things that the input helper does for the string, we just name it one time. We can use that method, the utility method, over and over again, which is kind of nice, right? Okay, this is the next one. So we're going to say movie, right? We're going to do we're going to call this read. We're going to read movie. We call it the read movie, right? Please bear with me with the variable names because I'm going to use the same variables over and over again. Every time we do it, we're going to have movie, 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 right? Normally you would say ID here and movie, lowercase movie, right? But we're using them because I'm going to have it all in one little code here, right? And we're going to say, we're going to use our movie list manager, or our controller here. Here's a movie list controller, dot, right, get row. And we're going to pass in there the read ID. The one that we use, this is an ID that we're going to read. I mean, again, I would use lowercase ID for that typically, but it's okay. Okay, let's check it now. Now, normally it says, look, it says movie has, we don't see what movie is. We have to import our movie from com.companyname.jdbc.beans and do that. So we don't have that yet in our imports. We haven't done this before in our program. And now we're going to say if our read movie, right? If our read movie is equal to null, well, that's a problem, isn't it? It means we didn't read anything in, right? Because we're going to return from our movie list controller get row null if it's a problem. And we should probably do some kind of sys error, right? Where we say something like no rows were found, right? Because that's possible. So no rows, you know, were found. Like you selected a row that doesn't exist. And we'll test for that in a second. Else, if it's not null, right, then we want to do a sysout. And again, this you could use stuff like our buffer again if you wanted to go do that whole buffer thing that we did last time. But we're going to just do it this way this time. Our movie ID plus our read movie, right? Dot get ID. Erg, no. How did I miss that? That's like such crap. Come on. Where does I get it? Oh, that's just not right. No, I thought I set this up properly. This, that, ID. Steven's laughing at me, probably saying, Tom, you did it again. There we go. That's nicer. Okay, so we're going to do that. Then the next piece will be sysout. We're going to put in then movie name with read movie. That's our Java bean, right, or our model. Dot get name. Right. So all these little things, we're going to just use the Java bean to pass them out, right? Sysout. And we're going to go movie description. I'll print this one out. Why not? because we're kind of in long form now, plus read movie dot get description. You get the idea, right? And then sys out movie release date. Release date. This is funky though. The release date's always more funky than anything else, right? Our release date, you're going to see what it is eventually, plus read movie dot get date, get release date, sys out movie rating plus read movie dot get rating, and the last one is sys out movie genre, where you want to do plus read movie dot get genre. Okay, cool. So we've got all those. That's what's going to print out. It's going to show us our movie, right? And that's really it in a nutshell. I mean, really, right there in our little clause here, and this is the end of our end of our read. So this right here is the end of our this piece here is the end of our read. And read. Okay, so let's test it. So when I go through here, if everything goes well, and I press play, and it says select the row of data to read. I want to select row 1, right? So then it should show me 1. Spectre, cryptic message from Bond's past sends him on a trail to uncover a sinister organization, blah, blah, blah. And then movie release date, the movie rating, and movie genre, right? Let's try one that doesn't exist to see if we get the error. So I'm going to kind of go here, and I want to read row 12. I know there's only 11. It's going to say no rows are found, right? So there's no row. What if I enter some other weird piece of data, like for example, rows to read F, right? That's where it's going to get a SQL exception where we have, hey, it's an input string, it's the wrong input string, and we should really get another exception to handle that because we're reading stuff in. We haven't done that type of exception. We'd have to code that in as a regular exception that we'd have inside of our input handler. Which remember I told you we like other exceptions we could put in there for validation. Okay. Okay, cool. So we've done our read, right? And that took a while. There's 2 pieces to it, right? There's the piece that we wrote in our movie list controller, this piece, and then the actually using of the read, right? Okay, let's kind of close this up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into, just to keep everyone sane, I'm going to go into lesson 11 here. I'm going to go to team. I'm going to commit, and I'm going to basically say updated movie list controller. I'll say added get row method. There we go, and commit and push. So you guys should have that now. If you did something wrong, you can always compare with mine. Let's do the next one. Questions so far about what we did, how we used the Java Bean, our model, right, to hold the information. All we're doing is it's going to contain all the information. That's what's going to be returned from our class. Instead of returning multiple things, right, we're returning an object. And the object is going to be full of the data that we're going to get from the row, right? We're going to do the same thing when we update the object and when we delete the object. We're going to pass in, we're going to manipulate everything through our Java Bean. So we've done our read, let's do our insert. You're going to notice that it's very similar in terms of our code, but we'll start typing anyway. So we'll say public static, right? We're also going to return this particular case a Boolean, right? We'll talk about this, and we're going to call this thing insert. Now we can call this insert row, whatever. Insert row might be the right way to call it because it makes sense. That's what we're doing. There's different kinds of inserts you can do or create. You can call this create row as well. We're going to call it insert row so you know what it is, and we're going to listen for a movie. We're listening for a movie, right? We're also going to throw a type of exception. It's not going to be a SQL exception this time. So we're going to just, pull for an exception. If it turns out to be a SQL exception, we'll fix it. All right. Again, the string SQL. We'll have a SQL query string, which we're going to make a little bit different. We're going to say, and notice how all these strings are the way we control our statements, just like we normally would do. So we're going to say insert. That's what we're going to do. Into movie list, right? And now here's where it's kind of challenging. Watch this. We'll break this down into a couple of rows for you guys so you can see this. Plus, so you can do this with a string, right? I was right the first time. Plus, and we'll say this. We'll say open bracket name, description, release date. These are the columns, right? Rating and genre, right? Close that off with a space afterwards. It's important to do the space, or else the query won't be valid. Plus, now here's where it gets funky. Values, you have to use the values keyword, right? And in brackets, right, you're going to do 1 question mark, 2 question marks, 3 question marks, 4 question marks, 5 question marks. Again, the question marks are the interpolation, place where you're going to interpolate the values that we're going to get from our movie bean, our Java bean, our movie object, right? Okay, cool. So there's our, well, that's how we insert a row, right? And what we're going to do now is we're going to get a result set that's outside of our try-catch, just like we did last time. So result set, which we're going to call result set, is equal to null. We're going to initialize it. Actually, what we'll do is instead of result set, we'll call it keys. Bear with me one. Instead of calling it result set, I'll talk about this in a second. Because a slightly different thing we're doing. We're doing an insert. We're not doing a read. So result set keys is equal to null, right? Inside of our enhanced try, we're still going to do the enhanced try stuff. We need to do that. And I'm going to kind of add some spaces in here so we can move this up so you can see. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to say enhanced try, where we're going to have our try-catch block, right? Again, it's important for us to structure everything the same because we also need a finally statement. So we're going to do try-catch, and this time when we catch, we're going to catch a SQL exception, right? Again, because that's the kind of SQL exception we're going to kind of catch. Exception. Again, I like to set things up ahead of time. Everyone does things a little different. Where I do db config dot display exception, right? Where we pass in the exception, so it kind of formats our exception nicely if we have an exception, right? And the other thing we want to do here is return false. Remember, we're going to return something, right? Return false. So we're going to basically use true or false to see if we did our insert. If we did an insert properly, then the method will return true. The method was successful, right? If it's false, we're going to return false. Somehow the method wasn't successful, right? We won't be able to return true. We return false if there's an exception. Right now, we also need a finally, because we've got to close off our result set, which we're going to do something like this. If keys is not equal to null, we're going to do keys dot close. And I'll tell you why I'm using keys in a second, because we need to get kind of our we're going to get returned some generated keys for us, right? That we're going to come back from our result set. Okay, inside here, inside of our try, right, where we're going to have our insert statement. Let's try and do this. Let's finish it off before we end for this session, and tonight we'll finish off whatever we can't finish off right now. Right? I'd like to try and finish off the entire CRUD today so that you've seen it all, right, and have everything you need. So connection, again, is equal to the db config dot get connection, what we normally do, So we open up our connection, and then we do a prepared statement, right? Which we call statement, right? Is equal to our connection dot prepare statement, right? Which we're going to pass in our SQL query, right? The string. And once we've got that, we don't want to just pass that in. We also want to pass in one more. That's why I talked about the keys. Statements dot return generated keys. By the way, the reason why I'm returning the generated keys is this way it'll work for any database. You won't need to do this for MySQL. We want to kind of make it so that it might work for any kind of database in the future. Okay? So return generated keys, what I did. So SQL query in our prepare statement, plus we use a switch, an enumeration to return our generated keys. It's kind of something we turned on in our prepared statement syntax. Okay, once we've done that, we're going to say in here statement dot set string, right? For the first parameter, right? What would it be? Our first parameter is name, right? So it's now we're getting it from our bean, which is our movie, right? Dot get name, right? Because we're getting it from our movie this time. It's coming into our object, and the movie is coming into our object, right? And then we're going to do the same thing. Statement dot set string for parameter 2, which we're going to say our movie, right? Dot get description. And same thing, statement dot, and after the description is our date, set date, which is number 3, our third parameter, which is our movie dot get release date. Keep going. Statement dot set rating. Set double. I'll be okay. Set double, which is our parameter number 4, and it's movie dot get rating. And after that, it's our genre, which is a string again. Set string, parameter number 5, and it's going to be movie dot get genre. Right? So those are all of them, but there's one more we have to put in because we have to also, now it's going to generate, this is the good thing, it's going to generate, auto increment our IDs. We don't have to generate that. That's why if you notice we're not doing that, right? But we need to see if, we also kind of have to understand the number of return rows. So we get the number of return rows, returned rows. We need to know that there's only one row affected because we're only inserting one row. So we have to check for that. So we're going to kind of create an integer that we're going to call affected. And we're going to say statement dot, and in one row, execute update, right? That execute update is different than how we did before. It's not what we did last time when we executed our query. We're executing an update, right? And what it's going to do, it's going to return the number of rows in the affected integer, right? So now we can say this. We can test for it. We can say if affected is exactly equal to 1, right? Then what do we want to do? We want to say that our keys dot statement, keys are equal to statement dot get generated keys, which, as I told you have to do that to get the generated keys because that's the key that's going to be generated from our auto incrementer, right? Where we say keys dot next for the next available key that's available, and now we're going to say int, an integer value, right? we're going to call new key is equal to keys dot get int, and then we're going to say column 1. Right? So we know it's column 1 all the time. That's where our column is. You could say ID as well, but it's column 1 in this particular case. And we're going to say movie dot set ID to new key. Okay, that's cool. That's only if we have one row affected somehow. Else, something else happens, which is impossible. Let's do a sys error that we're going to say, that we're going to kind of put in no rows affected. No rows affected. Somehow didn't work. Right? Okay. Now, we also have to put in someplace, right, in the bottom of our code here, right, after everything, return true. So somewhere down here, we're going to put in return true, because basically if we've gone through this and we don't have a, if our try didn't fail, whatever, we're good. Okay, cool. So that if that works, and the next piece, which we'll cover tonight, how do I don't want to do this anymore. Let's just comment this out, so otherwise it'll mess us up, right? Just comment all this out for our read. We'd have to do the same thing, but for our for inserting a row of data, but we'll cover that tonight. All right, so we'll start doing the insert after this. So I'm going to update this. So I'm going to go just that way you guys have it. So I'm going to say team commit, and we'll say updated movie list controller added insert row, because we have insert row method, and commit and push. Okay, that should be your latest version. So when we get together tonight, we'll cover the remaining pieces of we have to do for our database interactivity, and then we'll start off on multi-threading. Okay. Any questions around this stuff? Again, pretty straightforward. We're just going through it so you see it all in action. And you have an example, a working example that I'm going to give you so that you can use for your assignment 5. Okay? Sorry? I think it's individual, yeah. I don't think I made it so it's unit. Okay, and that's it for me for now. We'll get together later on.